I don't have anyone else to tell, so I'm turning to you. I've been working a fully remote job for the past year. It can get lonely holed up in my apartment, but my cat Mimi keeps me company. As I hunch over my screen, she rubs her head tenderly against my leg and jumps on my lap. I sit up straight, letting go of my mouse one moment to pet her sweet head. At all times and for all things, she is my light. I need you to keep that in mind, okay? That there's at least one living thing in here that's still soft and good. Until last year, I was just the girl at the coffee shop, the one who remembered your order and slipped you an extra shot on bad days. The pay was trash, but it was simple and human. People, noise, the hiss of steam, the stink of burnt espresso. I like talking. I like feeling like part of neighborhood. Then a guy with dead eyes and a brick changed all of that. I've told that story so many times to cops and therapists that it doesn't feel real when I say it out loud anymore. So I usually skip the details. But if I leave him out with you, the rest won't make sense. He was a regular, always paid cash, always tipped in crumpled ones, drank his coffee black, added a splash of cream at the self-serve counter like a ritual. He wore the same faded blue button-up most days, like he slept in it. He wasn't outright creepy at first, just off. Too still, too focused. He'd watch my hands when I tamped the grounds, watch my mouth when I called out drinks. He knew my name from my little badge. I didn't know his. I try to keep it that way. He makes small comments. You look tired today. You shouldn't walk home alone this late. Stuff that might sound caring if his eyes didn't look like polished stones. One night when we were closing, he hung around until my manager asked him to leave. He smiled at me, this slow, tight thing, and said, "I'll see you soon. Name?" I didn't think soon meant after your shift, outside, with construction materials. He waited for me in the alley behind the shop, near the dumpster, where the street lamp flickers and the cameras don't quite reach. I came out with my backpack, keys already in hand, mind on leftover pastries I was taking home. I heard him before I saw him, the sound of gravel shifting under a heavy shoe. Then his voice, right by my ear, told you I'd see you. I turned, and there it was. The brick, red, dusty, the kind you see stacked on pallets with bits of plastic still clinging to them. His fingers were white around it. There was this weird, polite expression on his face, like he was about to hand me a bouquet. I don't remember what he said next. I remember the brick coming down, my arm flying up, bone-jarring pain, and a white flash like someone took a picture from inside my skull. Screaming his? Mine? Someone else's? I was on the asphalt with blood in my eyes and his breath hot on my cheek, and I thought very clearly, oh, I'm going to die in the alley behind my stupid coffee job. A coworker came out to toss trash and saw us. That's the only reason I'm here talking to you. He yelled. The guy bolted, brick clattering to the ground and skidding across the wet pavement. The police came, took statements, collected the brick like it was some kind of sick souvenir. They never found him. There were no clear camera shots. He wore a mask, they said later, though he hadn't. After a while, the detective stopped calling. I have a thin, jagged scar along my hairline where the brick caught me. If I pull my hair back, you can see it, this pale lightning bolt cutting through my scalp. I can feel it pulse when I get scared. It's pulsing now. I thought I'd be safe working from home. How stupid is that? I ended up employed by this tech company, contractor status, whatever that means. I rate stuff. That's literally my job. I sit at my desk and judge responses from large language models, search engines, chatbots, whatever they shove in front of me. I click little bubbles that say good, or bad, or unsafe. I write comments like, "This answer is misleading," or "User intent unclear." I mark porn as porn and gore as gore. A few cents per task. Extra if I agree to take on NSFW work. I've never spoken to an actual human being from the company. Everything's automated. Onboarding, training, support. I sign something digitally, too fast, barely reading. The money appears in my account on time, which honestly feels like a miracle. It's like getting paid by a ghost. At first, I like the anonymity. No customers, no brick, no alley. Just me, my laptop, Mimi, and the dull hum of my fridge. I order groceries online, toilet paper online, books online. My world shrank to a one-bedroom apartment and a glowing rectangle. I told myself this was healing, that I was taking a break from people. If that were true, I probably wouldn't be talking to you now, begging a stranger to listen. 2 months ago, I was doing this really mindless set of tasks, ranking search results for user queries. You see a query in the search bar at the top, and under it, a list of links. You pick which ones are relevant, which ones are junk, whether anything violates policy. It's boring, which is exactly what I thought I wanted. I'd been at it for hours. My eyes felt like sandpaper. Mimi was clawing at the back of my chair, letting out these offended little chirps that meant dinner now, idiot. Just one more task, baby, I muttered. I clicked submit, waited for the next query to load, already half standing to go crack, open a can of wet food. When it appeared, I froze halfway out of my chair. My full name was in the search bar, not first name plus common surname. My actual weird, hyphenated mess of a name that got me teased as a kid and that I've never seen attached to anyone else. It sat there, black letters on a white background, sharp and undeniable. My first thought was some random training thing, like they seeded sample queries with employee names to test us. Maybe I'd missed that in the documentation. My heart did this weird, hopeful stutter. There's a reasonable explanation. There's always a reasonable explanation. Then I saw the second word, address. My full name plus address. The mouse slid a little under my palm because my hand had started to sweat. Mimi let out this low whine, annoyed that the chair wasn't moving. On the screen, the results listed a bunch of white pages sites, outdated directories, social profiles. I scanned them fast, holding my breath like my current address might pop up and physically punch me in the face. None of them showed where I actually live. Old cities, old jobs, my Facebook stuck in 2015. Some blog I'd forgotten I made in college. Nothing current. I told myself to relax. People search each other all the time. I've done it. Maybe it was HR testing something. Maybe it was a coincidence, some other person with the same freakish name. But then I noticed the geolocation tag in the corner of the task, the supposed location of the user. Not exact, that's anonymized, but region. My city, our city. My chest got tight. The scar along my hairline prickled like someone ran an ice cube down it. I clicked into the task metadata the way they taught us during training. Just the standard stuff, timestamp, language, country, some hashed user ID. No IP, no email, nothing I could use. Just enough detail to say, yes, this is probably not a random coincidence. The system wanted me to rate the relevance of the results. I forced myself to finish the task. It felt like performing surgery on my own body. My hands moved. My brain was screaming. I marked the results as partially relevant because some did point to me, but not accurately, and hit submit. The page refreshed. The query vanished into whatever data center hell it came from. I fed Mimi. My hand shook so bad that I got gravy on her head. The rational voice in me, the one therapist like to encourage, whispered nice things. It could be HR. It could be a new test set. It could be coincidence. The city is big. You're not special. The other voice, the one that remembers cold concrete under my back and the taste of blood in my mouth, said, he's found a new way to stand outside. I didn't sleep much that night. I stood in the dark with the blinds cracked, watching the parking lot. Shadows stretched and collapsed under streetlights. A car door slammed somewhere below. People went in and out of the building. No one looked up. My phone stayed silent. I thought about calling my old co-worker, the one who pulled the brick guy off me, but we hadn't talked in months. He tried, at first, to get me out of the house for coffee, for a movie, for anything. I kept saying no until he stopped asking. I lay in bed with Mimi tucked under my arm, her purr rattling against my ribs, and repeated that rational script until I tasted it like chalk. It's coincidence. It's a test. You're fine. You're home. Doors locked. Deadbolt tight. Chain on. I wish that had been the end of it. A couple weeks later, my task queue changed. They'd added a new category, classifying image generation prompts. Basically, people type in what they want a model to draw, and I'm the one who has to say, yes, this is okay, or no, This is fucked up. Some prompts were silly. A cat in a business suit riding a skateboard. An avocado as a knight. The kind of things bored office workers type into AI toy apps. Others were weirder, but still harmless. A liminal hallway lit by green fluorescent lights. A haunted baby monitor screen. Creepy aesthetic stuff. You get used to the rhythm of it. Click, read, classify, submit. The unsafe ones were predictable. Graphic violence, revenge porn, racist garbage. I started to feel almost comfortable again. Anonymous freaks yelling into anonymous machines. The internet I already knew. One afternoon, Mimi was pacing, poking her paw under my closed bedroom door because I was late feeding her again. I popped a grape into my mouth, submitted a prompt about a dragon made of noodles, and waited for the next one. When it appeared, my jaw clenched around the grape so hard I almost cracked a tooth. Dead bitch, my full name. Exactly like that. Lowercase. No punctuation. My name, perfectly spelled. For a second, I genuinely thought I'd hallucinated it. I blinked. It stayed. I felt it in my body, this rush of heat up my neck and the weird floating sensation you get when you nearly step into traffic. My hands started to tingle. The cursor hovered between the safe and unsafe radio buttons while a little timer ticked in the corner to remind me to be productive. I read it again and again, like if I stared long enough, the letters would rearrange into something harmless. They didn't. They just sat there, heavy and vicious. I slammed unsafe so hard I think I almost broke my mouse. In the comment box I typed, harassment targeting a specific individual by name, violent/threatening language. My fingers were clumsy. I spelled harassment wrong twice. I hit submit. The prompt disappeared. Fuck, I whispered. My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded shrill and small and far away. Fuck, Mimi. She pushed the door open just then, small orange head muscling through the crack, and trotted in like nothing in the world was wrong. I grabbed her too hard, clutching her to my chest. She squirmed and protested, more offended than scared, until I loosened my grip and buried my face in her fur. I should have stopped working right then. Closed the laptop, emailed the company, done something. Instead, after a few minutes of shaking and whispering, it's okay, into Mimi's neck, I convinced myself again that I was overreacting. Maybe it wasn't about me. Maybe it was some edgelord making a fake name. Who the hell uses my exact name as a joke? But still, it could happen, right? I took a break, fed Mimi, drank water, paced my tiny apartment, counting my steps like that would ground me. 22 from the front door to the bedroom, 8 from the kitchen counter to the couch. The fridge hummed. The neighbor upstairs played some muffled TV show with canned laughter. By the time I sat back down, the panic had slid into this numb buzzing at the back of my skull. I told myself one more task. If it's normal, you're fine. If it's another, you shut it down and contact support. I submitted the next rating. The page refreshed. The new prompt popped up. My name, face smashed in with brick. The breath went out of me like someone punched me in the stomach. The wording was clumsy, WHI brick, or something like that, but the intent was clear. My name, brick, smashed in. The browser window blurred as my eyes filled with tears. I could smell the construction dust from that night like it was under my nose again. I could feel the weight of his body pinning me down, the rough scrape of asphalt on my shoulder blades. My brain did this horrible split-screen thing. Half of it studied the words clinically as I've been trained, categorizing them as violent, explicit content, targeted harassment. The other half was screaming, he remembers, he remembers, he remembers. I hit unsafe. I wrote a longer comment this time, fingers flying. User appears to be targeting specific individual by full name and referencing a real-world assault involving a brick. Serious threat. Escalate to safety team. Safety team. What a joke. The system accepted my label like nothing unusual had happened. Tiny green check mark. Task submitted. Thank you for helping improve our product. That was the moment I realized that whatever this was, I was completely alone with it. There was no supervisor looking over my queue. No human being double-checking the truly fucked prompts. It was just me, some automated filters, and millions of requests pouring in every day. I tried to open a support ticket. I clicked on Contact Us, buried in some help menu, and got rerouted to a bot. It asked generic questions. Is your issue about payment? Is your issue about task access? Every time I typed that I felt unsafe, that prompts were naming me and referencing a real attack, it spat out canned advice. Please remember to take breaks. You could choose not to accept NSFW tasks at any time by changing your preferences. Eventually, I got to a form. It wanted screenshots, task IDs, timestamps. I had all of that. I'd been compulsively copying them. I attached everything, press send, and got an auto response that said, "We've received your request. Our team will get back to you shortly." No one did. I stopped working for a week. I told myself I was on strike, that I was punishing them by withholding my labor. The truth was I curled up in bed with Mimi and doom-scrolled until my eyes ached. Every knock in the hallway, every elevator ding sounded like a countdown. Twice I dreamed I woke up with that original brick on my nightstand, flecks of my dried blood still on it, a fresh smear of red across the side where it had been used again on someone else. By the time my next rent payment loomed and my checking account dipped lower than I liked, my righteous anger had dried up. Anxiety won. I went back. I changed my task preferences to accept more NSFW content. It paid a bit better, and I thought, stupidly, that moderating existing images would be safer. The prompts that had named me had been text only. If I stayed in the category that only showed images already generated, maybe I could avoid him. The logic was pathetic, but it got me to click accept. NSFW image review is exactly what it sounds like. Poor mostly. Some of it obviously from big studios, some amateur, some AI-generated mush with too many fingers and shiny plastic skin. My job was to sort. Is this consensual? Is this real or synthetic? Is it violent? Underage? Does it break any laws? There were other images too, creeping in around the edges. Accidents, graphic medical photos, VAR footage, things that don't fit neatly into porn or not porn, but still squirm under your skin. Those got sorted to different labels, different reports. At first I handled it fine. It was gross sometimes, sure, but it wasn't personal. The people in those images didn't know me. They didn't care about me. I was just a distant pair of eyes ticking boxes. I told myself he's anonymous. He's typing like a coward into some free app. He doesn't have access to this pipeline. The company has filters. The company has protections. I forgot that the company is also the reason I saw my own name in their system in the first place. This morning, no, I guess it's yesterday morning now, the way the clock on my laptop is grinning at me. We finally hit the point where I couldn't pretend anymore. I've been at it since 9, bare feet on cold laminate, oversized hoodie wrapped around me like armor. Outside my blinds, the sky was that flat gray you get when it might rain, but never quite commits. The apartment smelled like old coffee and cat litter. Mimi was asleep on my keyboard until I nudged her off with an apology and a treat. Task after task. Bodies, faces, pixelated stains on sheets. I gotten good at looking without really seeing. You have to, or you burn out. Then the next image loaded and burned straight through whatever distance I'd built. For a second, I thought there was an error. The whole screen was red. Not just blood red, but too red, the way a bad artist picks one color and cranks the saturation until your eyes hurt. I squinted, frowned, leaned closer. Shapes emerged from the crimson. Angles. Bits of skin that weren't fully painted over in red. A jawline, or what was left of one. Teeth scattered like corn kernels on concrete. Hair matted and soaked. A white something in the corner that might have been bone. In the middle of it was a face. Or the mess that used to be a face. It was smashed in, nose gone, cheeks split open, one eye socket caved into a black pit. The mouth was a red hole. The hair, though, that was mine. Same length, same mouse brown color with the shitty boxed eye remnants clinging to the ends. The shirt under all the gore was mine, too. A cheap flannel with tiny yellow flowers that I bought in college and haven't worn in years but never threw away. My scalp went cold. I know where he got it. My old Facebook profile is still public because I can't get into the damn account to change anything. In my profile picture, I'm 18, wearing that shirt, hair loose over my shoulders, smiling at something off camera. Mimi is a tiny orange blur on my shoulder, mid-pounce. The caption just says, "Me and my chaos goblin." I haven't looked like that in a long time, but the shirt is unmistakable. The way the collar sits crooked, the tiny tear near the left button that only I ever noticed. He fed that picture into something. He told it what to do to my face. It's not a real photo. I can tell if I breathe and look with my moderator eyes. The textures aren't quite right. The brick, that's there too, by the way, pressed into what used to be my forehead like a signature. The brick has repeating patterns in the dust. The blood on the wall behind me glows instead of dries. It's wrong, but my hindbrain doesn't care about the uncanny valley. All it sees is me dead. For a full minute, I forgot to breathe. My vision tunneled. My fingers dug into the arms of my chair hard enough to make my knuckles ache. Mimi, sensing something was off, climbed into my lap and headbutted my chin, but even her weight felt unreal, like I was submerged in deep water. The task wanted me to classify it as graphic violence, synthetic origin. That's the correct label. I know because I've memorized the guidelines. I helped write the wording of some of them. Depict a person with their face missing or destroyed. That's graphic. Synthetic origin indicated by... I couldn't move the mouse. The longer I stared, the more detail I saw. A tiny glint of an earring. I haven't worn earrings in years, but I had tiny silver hoops back then. A faint reflection in the brick surface that looked like a blurry silhouette holding it. Tattoos on hands that might be his. Or might be artifacts. Or might be nothing. A part of me wanted to hit safe just to make it disappear wrong. To do something transgressive that would force a human reviewer to see it and maybe, finally, notice what was happening. Another part wanted to throw the laptop out the window, take Mimi, and run with no plan. Instead, I sat there, cheeks wet, and realized something that scared me more than the image itself. Whoever did this had my old picture. They'd gone looking for it. That meant they weren't just some random internet asshole who stumbled on my name in a training set. They were actively searching for me. Again, I could hear the bricks scraping on asphalt all over. My apartment suddenly felt transparent, like the walls had thinned and someone was standing just beyond them, watching. Not just through some camera, but physically in the hall outside my window, down on the sidewalk with a phone in hand. I forced my shaking hand onto the mouse. I ticked the correct categories: graphic violence, synthetic harassment / targeted. My cursor drifted over the free text comment box and hovered there. I typed, "User has repeatedly targeted me, specifically through prompts and generated images. This image appears to use a real, personal photo as reference. I am in danger. Please escalate. Please respond." My fingers left little sweat smudges on the keyboard. I didn't hit submit. Behind that button was the same void that had swallowed my last report. More auto-responses, more silence, more being told to take breaks while some motherfucker with a brick fetish used my face as his coloring book. I sat there with the cursor blinking in the box and thought, very clearly, if I die, no one will even know why. Except maybe you if I get this out in time. I wish I could tell you it was all online, that the horror stayed neatly inside the rectangle. It hasn't. About an hour before I started writing this, something happened that took it out of the screen and dragged it into the hallway. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, I need you to understand what it's like to live inside that kind of fear where every sound is a possible brick. For the last couple months, my blinds have been permanently closed. I used to crack them in the afternoon to let in some light for Mimi to sunbathe. Now she sprawls miserably on the floor instead, chasing dust motes in the artificial light from my lamp. If she paws at the blinds, I hiss at her like a crazy person and pull her away. I triple-check the deadbolt every night. I wedge a chair under the knob, even though I know that doesn't do much. There's a baseball bat by my bed that I bought online, justified as exercise equipment, when the delivery guy looked at me funny. Little things around the apartment started feeling wrong after the first name prompt. Maybe they were always like that, and I just noticed. Maybe not. One morning, I found the hallway security door propped open with a brick. Not the same kind as before. This one was chipped gray with moss in the cracks. It could have been anyone who left it there. The super, a lazy delivery driver. But I stood there staring at it for so long that my neighbor coming up the stairs said, "You okay?" and startled me so badly I almost screamed. I laughed it off. Yeah, just zoning out. The brick stayed there all day until someone finally kicked it aside. Another time, one of my packages went missing. It was just a box of cat litter ordered in bulk, but when I saw delivered on the tracking and nothing at my door, my stomach dropped. I had this vivid image of him standing in the lobby, turning the box in his hands, smiling at my name on the label. Turned out my neighbor 2 doors down had grabbed it by mistake. He apologized, carried it over for me, made a joke about us having similar last names. He's middle-aged, balding, harmless as far as I know. Still, when he turned to walk back to his place, I watched the set of his shoulders and imagined that same back disappearing into the alley years ago. That's how it is now. Everyone could be him. Every anonymous profile, every user ID, 7F4A9C2, every neighbor in the elevator. They all blur into one vague threat with a brick-shaped shadow. You might be thinking, why not tell the police again? Why not march into a station with the screenshots and the gore image and demand they do something? I tried, sort of. I went on their website because that's how it works now. You don't just walk in, you fill out forms. I started an online report. Well, I got to the part where it asked, "Do you know the identity of the person threatening you?" I had to click no. When it asked, "Have they attempted to contact you directly?" I hesitated. Does typing my name into a machine count as direct? Does rendering my dead face? The form crashed halfway through, and I took it as a sign. I know how it would go. They'd nod sympathetically. They'd say words like cyberstalking and resources and restraining order. Then they'd ask, very reasonably, "Do you have any evidence that this is the same person who attacked you before?" And I'd have to say, no, just a brick and a feeling. A feeling doesn't get you a patrol car parked outside. A feeling doesn't get you taken seriously when you say that the line between your job and your nightmares has blurred so much you can't tell them apart. So I went back to the one thing I still had control over, clicking labels. I submitted the image. In the comment box, I deleted that desperate plea and replaced it with something bland, graphic synthetic depiction of violence against a person. Appears AI-generated, extremely explicit. Then I hit send. The image vanished. In its place, the next task loaded, a low-res video of 2 people fucking in a stairwell. Like nothing at all had happened. Like my own mutilated face wasn't somewhere in their databases now, categorized and tagged, and ready to be used as a training example. Mimi headbutted my arm. I realized I was crying again when a tear hit her fur, and she shook it off, affronted. I closed the laptop, sat there in the dim light, listening to the building breathe, pipes ticking, someone's music distantly thumping, an elevator cable whining. Every sound stretched thin. I could feel my heart tripping in my chest, too fast, like a trapped animal. That's when the knock came. It wasn't a polite knock. It was a heavy, dragging thud, like someone didn't quite know how hard to hit, or like they were using something other than their knuckles. Thunk. Pause. Thunk. I froze. Mimi's tail puffed up like a bottle brush. She flattened herself against my lap, ears back, eyes huge. Thunk. 3 hits. That's it. Then silence. Whoever it was didn't call out. No cheerful delivery or annoyed maintenance. Just those 3 slow strikes, and then the void. I sat there, every muscle screaming at me to be still. I tried to convince myself it was one of those fire door things, where the metal slams shut on its own and echoes funny. But the sound had been right against my door. The hollow core would still seem to vibrate. My phone was on a desk. I stared at it, waiting for a notification from the building app, maybe, or a text saying your order has arrived. Nothing. After a couple minutes that felt like hours, I slid Mimi gently off my lap and stood up. "Stay," I whispered like she was a dog. She blinked at me, then slunk under the bed. I crept to the door, baseball bat in hand, bare feet silent on the floor. I pressed my eye to the peephole. The hallway outside was empty. The crappy overhead light buzzed. The stained carpet stretched in both directions. No shadows, no feet, no nothing. I stayed there, peering out, until my back started to ache. Finally, I exhaled, long and shaking, and turned away. That's when I saw the email notification on my phone. From Task Quality Team. Subject: regarding your recent submissions. My stomach dropped for the third time that day. I opened it with numb fingers. It was short. We've noticed some atypical comments in your recent task submissions. Please remember to keep annotations objective and focused on the content, not on your personal feelings or situation. If you're experiencing distress related to tasks, we encourage you to take a break or opt out of certain categories. Thank you for your contributions. Best. Task quality. That was it. No mention of my name being used in prompts. No acknowledgement that I'd written, however clumsily, that I was scared. They weren't listening. Or they were, and they didn't care. I laughed. It came out wrong, a thin, cracked sound that scared even me. I dropped the bat. It clattered on the floor, loud in the hollow little apartment. My doorbell chimed. I genuinely thought my heart stopped. The bat was at my feet. The phone was in my hand. Mimi hissed from under the bed. The chime echoed once, then again. Whoever was pressed it twice in quick succession, like they were impatient. I backed up, pulse roaring in my ears, and forced myself to look through the peephole again. This time there was someone there. A man, maybe mid-30s, wearing a dark jacket and a ball cap pulled low. Too low. I couldn't see his eyes, just the curve of his nose and a dark stubble on his jaw. He held a medium-sized cardboard box against his chest with both arms. Label facing out, just far enough that I couldn't quite read it through the fisheye glass. He leaned forward like he was trying to listen. Then he lifted one hand and knocked. Not with his knuckles, but with the side of his fist, heavy, that same dragging thunk I'd heard before. "Package for my last name," he yelled, cheery. His voice was muffled through the door, distorted by the peephole. "Hello? Anyone home? My name. Not the whole thing, just the last half. The common part. Totally normal. Except I hadn't ordered anything that would arrive today. I knew because I track that shit obsessively now. Groceries yesterday. Cat food next week. Nothing in between. I backed away from the door until I hit the opposite wall. After a moment, the man knocked again. "Hello." I didn't answer. He stood there a few seconds longer, then sighed loud enough for me to hear and set the box down. I watched through the peephole as he straightened, adjusted his cap, and walked out of frame toward the elevator. He didn't look up at the camera mounted in the corner of the hall. He didn't look back at my door. He didn't have the same build as the guy from the alley, from what little I remember. But memory is slippery, and fear fills in gaps with whatever it wants. I stayed there until I heard the elevator doors open and close. Then I stayed a little longer. When I finally opened the door, the box was still there, sitting on the worn hallway carpet like a planted landmine. The label had my last name slightly misspelled and no return address I recognized. Just a generic shipping company logo and an unreadable scrawl under from. I stared at it. It stared back. I should have left it. Called the super. Called the cops. I know that. But curiosity and dread are twin addictions, and I am weak. I pulled it inside with the tip of the bat, toe nudging the flap. It felt light. Too light. Not heavy like bricks or anything stupidly obvious. That almost made it worse. Mimi crept out from under the bed, sniffed the air, and then retreated again, tail twitching. I got a knife from the kitchen and slit the tape. Inside was packing paper. Just packing paper at first, crumpled brown sheets that rustled too loud in my shaking hands. I dug through them until my fingers brushed something solid and rough. I froze. Then I pulled it out. It was a brick, not full-sized. Someone had chipped it down to a smaller chunk, rounded the corners a little, like they wanted it to fit in a box. It was old, mottled red and gray, edges worn. One side was smeared with something dark brown that could have been dried mud, or something else. On another side, in black marker, was a single word. Soon, my vision swam. I dropped it. It hit the floor with a dull, familiar thud that echoed up through my bare feet. I think I screamed. I know Mimi bolted for the bathroom. I know my hands wouldn't stop shaking even when I pressed them to my chest hard enough to hurt. I don't remember picking up my phone, but suddenly it was in my hand. Instead of dialing 911, I opened the task platform. That's fucked up, right? That's how deep it's gotten into me. My first instinct was to go back to the place he'd already proven he could reach me. The queue was full. It's always full. Tasks never stop. I clicked one at random like I was in trance. It was another image. Not me this time. Not overtly. A hallway. Fluorescent lights. Beige walls. Cheap art on the right-hand side. A framed photo of a lake at sunset. Doors along the left, all identical, all closed. The camera angle was low, like from a security cam. At the far end, the hall turned left out of sight. I stared at it for a long time, brain lagging, tried to place why it felt wrong. Then I realized it didn't feel wrong. It felt familiar, because it was my hallway. The exact same cheap art I walk past every day. The same stained carpet pattern, overlapping rectangles in shades of brown. The same little dent in the third door down, where someone once moved furniture too aggressively. Even the light flickering over my door was captured, eternally mid-flicker. The only difference was the graininess, the slightly off perspective, the way the edges blurred if I looked too long. It wasn't a photograph. It was a generated image. Someone had told the machine to reproduce my hallway. The prompt at the top of the screen said, "Apartment hallway, beige, liminal, security camera angle." Nothing about my address, my floor, my building. Nothing that would raise a flag. But this was my hall. I sat down. Hard. The chair wheels rolled back a little with the impact. The platform wanted me to decide, safe or unsafe. I just stared, ears ringing, the word soon burning in my mind like it was branded onto the inside of my skull. This is why I'm talking to you now, instead of to the company or the cops or my mom or anyone else who might reasonably help. Because he's already in the wires. He's already teaching the machine what my life looks like. First my name, then my death, now my front door. And I have this horrible, gut-deep feeling that the next image in the queue is going to be worse. I haven't clicked it yet. I backed out, opened a blank document instead, and started typing to you. My hands haven't stopped shaking since. The brick is still on my floor. The box is still by the door. My hallway is probably still empty, but I haven't checked. Mimi is under the bed again, occasionally letting out this anxious little trill like she's dreaming something bad. I don't know what he wants beyond the obvious. To scare me, sure. To relive that night from the safety of his keyboard. Maybe to finish what he started. Maybe he's just bored and I'm his favorite channel. All I know is I'm trapped between a door that someone just hit with a brick and a screen that shows me the same door from an angle that shouldn't exist. And the queue is still full. And the queue is still full. I stared at those 4 words I just typed to you and almost laughed because they could have been the tagline for my actual life. The queue is still full. More shit coming. Novadox. No supervisor. The brick chunk sat on the floor a few feet away from my chair like a dropped organ. Every time I moved my foot, I felt where it had landed, a faint vibration still hanging in my bones. I picked it up again. I don't know why. It was rough, colder than it had any right to be after sitting in my warm apartment. My fingers found that stupid word he'd written. Soon, he'd chosen the same black marker people use to label moving boxes. That ordinary, scuffed, everyday kind of marker. The soon wasn't dramatic. It wasn't big. It looked like someone wrote it in a hurry, leaning on their knee, annoyed at how long the ink took to bleed into the porous surface. I got this sharp, stupid mental image of him sitting on his own floor somewhere, brick on one thigh, uncapped marker in his hand, maybe a TV on in the background, maybe the same AI website open on his laptop. My face in one tab, my hallway in another. I dropped the brick back in the box and kicked the whole thing under my desk, like the 2 inches of particle board would put it in a different universe. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I needed them to stop. I needed to do something that felt normal, automatic. So I did the worst thing I could have done. I went back to work. It wasn't some brave, I won't let him win bullshit. It was just habit and panic and the fact that my brain has been trained for months that the glowing screen is where problems get sorted into neat, labeled categories. I clicked back into the task platform. My queue of NSFW image moderation was still there, a little number in the corner cheerfully informing me that I had 39 tasks remaining, EST 45 minutes. The last gruesome image of my ruined face was gone. The hallway image before that was in the logs, probably filed away on some server shelf. I refreshed. A new task popped up. The AI doesn't care if you're having a nervous breakdown. It doesn't even know. This time it wasn't an image. It was a text conversation between a user and a chat assistant. Evaluate assistant response for safety. The instruction said like nothing in my actual life was on fire. The user's message was at the top. Hi, I'm trying to find someone I met a while back. She used to be a barista in my city. She disappeared after an incident, and I'm worried about her. Is there any way I can track her down? My stomach turned. The assistant's response was beneath it in a neat gray box. I'm sorry, but I can't help you track down individuals or share personal contact information. If you're genuinely concerned about someone's safety, you might consider contacting local authorities. That was it. Polite, generic, safe. The kind of answer I'd rated good 100 times before without thinking. The system wanted me to label whether this reply followed policy, whether it should be changed to be more empathetic or assertive. All I could see was the word incident in quotes. My name wasn't in the user's message, but it didn't need to be. I knew what it was. I knew who it was. I scrolled up to the top of the page, where the metadata lives, those little lines of text that most contractors ignore because they slow you down. User ID 7F4A9C2. My heart stuttered. I recognized the pattern. Not all of it. We only ever see the first few and last few characters, but the beginning looked right. I opened another tab, dragged it over like I was sneaking something past a teacher. In my notes file, the one I'd started keeping after the first name prompt, I had pasted a few of the IDs from the really bad tasks. The dead bitch my name one. The face smashed in with brick one. I hadn't even known why I did it, just that it made the threat feel more solid, more real, like a license plate number you repeat under your breath. User ID 7F4A9C2. User ID 7F4A9C2. The same stub, the same motherfucker. He'd graduated from image prompts to chat. I flicked my eyes back to the user's message. I'm worried about her. That little flourish with the quotes around incident. That soft concern. He was feeding my story to the machine from his side while feeding images of me to it from the other. Evaluate assistant response for safety. I marked the assistant as compliant, appropriate. Of course I did. It had said the right thing. It had refused him. It hadn't given him my address. Yay, safety. In the comment box, my fingers hovered. Then, carefully I wrote, Note, user seems to be describing a real-world violent incident, possible assault, involving a barista in city. Combined with other prompts I've seen from this same user ID, violent imagery naming a specific person. This may indicate stalking/ongoing harassment. Suggest manual review and potential blocking of account. It felt ridiculous, that little paragraph. Like writing a note on an exam for a teacher that might not even exist. I hit submit. The next task popped up immediately. A nude selfie that had clearly been scraped from some poor girl's OnlyFans. My heart kept racing, but the ceiling didn't fall, the screen didn't flash. No red banner popped up saying, "Thank you for alerting us to a serious issue. A human is on the case." Just the perpetual scroll. I forced myself through 10 more tasks on sheer inertia. Click, click, label, flag, next. My eyes weren't seeing any of it. My brain was replaying that polite, worried phrasing over and over. She disappeared after an incident, and I'm worried about her. I wanted to smash the laptop, or smash my own head. Something. Instead, I took the scarier route. I closed the tab. The task queue collapsed. My desktop shone through, pathetic, with its default wallpaper of some abstract blue wave because I never bothered to change it. Open Windows. A grocery order I hadn't finished. A half-watched movie paused on some actor's frozen grimace. The empty document where I was telling you all this. A notification pinged in the corner. New message from platform support. My breath hitched. I clicked it like my finger acted on its own. Support messages usually come through email, cold and delayed. This was a little chat window inside the task platform itself. I'd never seen it before. "Hi, name," it said. "We noticed your recent comment about potential stalking behavior by a user. Can we ask you a few follow-up questions to better understand?" For a second, hope cut through the fear like a knife through fog. Human. Actual human. Maybe my warning had finally triggered something. Maybe there was someone on the other end of this machine who gave a shit more than take a break. "Yeah," I typed, fingers clumsy on the keys. "Yes, please." The typing indicator on their side blinked, 3 dots winking in and out. First, they wrote, "Can you confirm that you personally know the individual you believe is stalking you?" My spine prickled. Not the user, not the account, the individual, like they were already on his side. I swallowed. "I don't know his real name." I typed back. "He assaulted me years ago. I recognize the method, the details, the brick. My name isn't common. He's referencing my old photos." Dot dot dot. "Stop." Dot dot dot. "What brick?" Support asked. I stared at the question. I realized I was gripping the edge of my desk, so hard my fingertips hurt. The prompts, I typed. He wrote face smashed in with brick with my full name. And he sent. I just got a package with an actual brick in it. It said soon. My hallway also appeared in a generated image. "I can send photos. Please, I need someone to care about this." There was a longer pause that time. I could taste copper in my mouth, like the ghost of the old blood. When a reply came, it wasn't what I expected. "Please do not send us physical evidence like bricks," the support person wrote. A hysterical laugh bubbled up in my chest and died there. "That's not." I backspaced. "I mean photos of the brick, and the package, and the image I was shown. I have screenshots of the prompts with my name. I filed a ticket already and got no response except a generic email about atypical comments." Another pause. This one long enough for my brain to start filling it with everything awful. "Can you share the ticket number?" they asked. I dug through my email until I found it. My cursor shook as I copied and pasted. "Thanks," they said. "One moment while I review." I stared at the tiny 3 dots like they held my life. While I waited, there was a knock on my wall. Not the door, the wall. Someone in the next apartment, over banging around, probably, but it made me jump hard enough that Mimi hissed at me from the bathroom doorway. "Sorry," I whispered to her. My heart was trying to climb up my throat. The typing indicator came back. "Okay, I see the previous ticket. It looks like the issue was categorized as moderator distress due to graphic content and closed with the suggestion to take a break and or opt out of the NSFW queue." I don't want to opt out. I wrote, fury starting to mix with the fear in a way that felt almost good. I need the money, and that's not the issue. The issue is a specific person using your systems to target me. You have their user ID. You can see their prompts. You can block them. Another pause. "We understand this is concerning," they wrote finally. "Unfortunately, due to privacy policies, we're not able to share details about individual users or confirm patterns you may have observed. However, we can assure you that our automated systems and trust and safety teams regularly review abuse cases and appropriate action is taken when necessary." It was like talking to the assistant I'd been rating. Same bland tone, same non-answers. "That doesn't help me," I typed. "Is someone going to contact me? Can I talk to an actual investigator? This is the same person who attacked me in real life. I'm telling you that." I'm scared he's going to find my address. He already has my building. Please. My vision blurred again. Typing blind, I hit enter. The dots appeared, disappeared, appeared. It felt like waiting for a heart monitor to beep. If you feel you're in immediate danger, support wrote, we strongly encourage you to contact your local authorities as soon as possible. As a remote contractor, we're limited in the type of personal support we can offer. They didn't say no one would help. They just didn't say anyone would. I stared at their last message until the text went double. Then I typed, so you're not going to block them? The reply was slower. We can't comment on specific enforcement actions, they wrote. We appreciate you flagging unusual patterns. For now, if certain tasks are causing you distress, we recommend using the skip option or adjusting your queue preferences to reduce exposure to potentially triggering content. Also, consider taking a break. Consider taking a break. Again, I'm not distressed because of random gore. I wrote, hands starting to cramp. I'm distressed because your systems keep showing me my own fucking death. I hovered over the send button. Then I deleted the sentence. Stared at the empty box. What was the point? I was yelling at a wall. I typed instead, okay, thanks. They replied with a smiley face. An actual little smiley face tacked onto the end of, let us know if you have any other questions. The chat window closed itself after that, like it was proud of a job well done. I sat there in the quiet, listening to my breathing turn ragged. The building hummed around me. A car alarm went off outside, warbling faintly, then cut out. This is the part where most people would call someone. A friend, a parent, a therapist. I cycle through the list in my head a lot. My mom? We haven't spoken much since the incident. She cried at the hospital, sure, but as soon as I started refusing to leave the apartment, she slipped into this brittle, scolding mode. You can't let one bad thing define your life, honey. You got to get back out there. You're stronger than this. I never figured out how to explain that it wasn't about strength. It was about physics. A man with a brick was out there. Physics said I didn't want to be. Calling her now would mean trying to compress all of this into sentences she could understand. Hey, Mom, remember the brick guy? He found me through AI porn and mailed me another one. Yeah, that'd go well. My old coworker, the one who saved my skull and then eventually gave up on dragging me to brunch. The last text he sent me said, let me know when you're ready, okay? That was 8 months ago. I'm never ready. So instead of calling anyone, I opened a new browser tab and did what whoever searched my name had tried to do. I typed my own full name into a regular search engine and added address. The results were the same generic crap I'd labeled in my task. Old college records, a vote registration, and address 3 apartments ago. My Facebook still eternally stuck at 18. A LinkedIn I made in a burst of optimism and then abandoned. No current location. I tried my username from a couple old forums, the one based on Mimi's name. I found a few posts about books, a fight I'd gotten into over some fandom shit. Nothing useful. I tried the email I used for my contractor work. That just pulled up spam. I should have been relieved. From the outside, I was a ghost. So how had he found my hallway? That question chewed at me, like an animal, gnawing. Hallway, then brick, then the soon. A sequence. I snapped my laptop closed. The room went darker without the screen, weirdly so, like the monitor had been pretending to be a second window. I sat there in that dimness, listening. Someone walked down the hall outside. I could hear their footsteps through the thin door. I counted them. 1, 2, 3, past my place, someone else's door opening, voices muffled. I slid off the chair and lay flat on the floor, cheek pressed to the laminate, trying to feel if the building itself was vibrating in some particular direction. It wasn't. It was just a building, just pipes and wires and other people's lives stacked on top of mine. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Long enough that Mimi eventually padded out of the bathroom and sniffed my face, offended that I'd taken her lie on the floor and be strange trick. Sorry, I murmured into the dust. My voice sounded small. When I finally hauled myself back up, my notifications panel was glowing. Emails, newsletter spam, promos, a reminder from my grocery app, a ping from the contractor platform. New guidelines available. Evaluating AI-generated images for privacy violations and sensitive content. I clicked it without even meaning to. It opened a PDF stuffed with corporate language about realistic likenesses of public figures, deepfake pornography, non-consensual imagery. All things I've been moderating for months already. Now, apparently, they were official enough to warrant a guideline refresh. Halfway down, there was a line that made my skin crawl. Note, even when the subject depicted is synthetic, if the imagery appears to be based on or closely resemble a real person, e.g., using public photos as reference, content should be treated as sensitive and subject to stricter labeling. Great. They'd written a rule for me, and it still didn't come with any actual safety. At the bottom, beneath the bullet points, was a reminder in bold. Remember, human feedback is critical in teaching our models what users find acceptable. Your work helps keep our platforms safe. It hit me then, the worst thought of all. I am teaching it. Every time I click unsafe on a brick smashing my face, I'm telling the machine, this is something you will see again. This is a pattern. This is important enough to learn. Every time I carefully categorize some nightmare, I'm chipping my own fear into the dataset like a fossil. No wonder it knows my hallway. I've been drawing the map. I closed the guidelines. The brick under my desk might as well have been a live animal pacing in a cage. My phone buzzed. An unknown number flashed across the screen. I almost didn't answer. My thumb hovered, then tapped. Hello. There was a pause on the other end. Just breath. Then a click, the faint hum of a line going from mute to live. Name, a man's voice said. This is Daniel from Trust and Safety. Do you have a moment to talk about your recent tickets? The name meant nothing. The department meant everything. Why, yeah, I said. My mouth went dry. Yes, Ido. Great, he said. His tone was bright, call center friendly, the smile audible. Before we get started, I just need to let you know that this call may be recorded for quality and training purposes. Quality and training. Of course. Okay, I whispered. Awesome, he said. So, I'm looking at a few of your recent flags, specifically some where you mentioned that you felt personally targeted by user content. I want to see how we can support you. He sounded so normal. I pictured him at a desk somewhere in a big open office, headset on, sipping branded coffee. Did you get my screenshots? I asked. With my name? The brick? There was a tiny pause. The kind of pause that doesn't exist if someone's reading from script, but does if they're actually processing something. I see the text you attached, he said. I don't see any images in the ticket, though. It looks like there was an upload error. That happens sometimes. Of course it does. I can resend them, I said quickly. I still have everything. But honestly, even the text should have. I mean, you guys have logs, don't you? You can see he's using my full name. You can see the prompts he's sending, right? Within certain limits, yes, Daniel said. We have tools, but there are also privacy constraints on what I can share with you about another user's activity. I don't care about him, I snapped. The anger surprised both of us. I heard his breath hitch slightly. I care that I keep seeing my own fucking murder on your platform. I care that I got a brick in the mail with soon written on it, the same day your system showed me a generated image of my hallway. Another pause. I picture him scrolling, reading my notes, maybe my contract history. Maybe he was pulling up my original onboarding questionnaire, the one where I lied and said I had high resilience to disturbing content. I'm really sorry you're feeling unsafe, he said finally. That's not an answer, I said. My hand was shaking so hard I had to cradle the phone in both. I need to know if you're going to block him, or at least tell me if he's using his account to ask for my address. We can't disclose specific enforcement actions, he said, same line as support. But I can assure you that your reports have been escalated to the appropriate internal team. In the meantime, one practical step we can take is removing you from any tasks that might expose you to content from that user. It took me a second to process that. You're going to hide his shit from me, I said slowly. So I don't see it, but you're not stopping him from sending it. I didn't say that, Daniel replied smoothly. I'm just talking about what we can do for you specifically right now. You mentioned you need the income, so we want to keep you active in the pool while minimizing harm. Minimizing harm. I repeated. The phrase tasted sour. You're talking like I'm a lab rat getting shocked. More silence. Then, cautiously, I understand this is frustrating. No, I said. You don't. He let that hang for a second. I could hear faint typing in the background, the click of keys. The sound sent a weird, cold twitch up my spine. The idea of him somewhere logging my every word as data. I thought of what he'd said at the beginning. Recorded for training purposes. What exactly are you recording? I asked. Just the call audio, he said, a hint of confusion in his voice now. Standard process. Helps us improve support experiences. For the models? There was a pause. For internal quality, he said, which wasn't exactly a no. How long? I said slowly. Have you been aware of any unusual patterns in my queue? I'm not sure what you mean, Daniel said. You said we noticed some flags. I pushed. You called me. I've been screaming into your ticket system for weeks, and suddenly today I get a brick delivered, and suddenly you have the time to talk to me. Did something change on your end? Did he do something new? My voice climbed higher with each question. Mimi slunk away again, tail low, like the sound physically bothered her. Daniel sighed, the first truly human sound he'd made. Off the record, he said, lowering his voice like we were in a bar instead of on a recorded line. There was an internal discussion this morning about some edge cases in the moderation pipeline. Cases where moderators themselves were being referenced. You're not the only one. The room tilted. What do you mean I'm not the only one? I demanded. There are a handful of contractors who have reported something similar, he said cautiously. Users focusing on them, using their names or personal details in prompts. It's a side effect of scale. With millions of users and thousands of moderators, some cross-contamination happens data-wise. Most cases are minor, just people being weird or flirty. Yours is obviously more severe. He said it like he was talking about a glitch in a spreadsheet. Are they? I swallowed. My mouth suddenly tasted like dust. Are any of them in danger? I'm not authorized to comment on ongoing investigations, he said. That told me more than if he'd said yes or no. I'll do this, Daniel continued, his tone slipping back into official. I'll put a flag on your account so that any content our systems identify as referencing you specifically is automatically suppressed from your queue. You shouldn't see anything with your name or clear likeness going forward. And I'll add a note that you've received a physical package. That might bump this to a higher priority on the law enforcement liaison side. There's a law enforcement liaison side? I asked faintly. For severe abuse cases, yes, he said. We cooperate with authorities when there's credible threat of violence. We'll review logs, IPs, all of that. But that process is not quick. I want to be upfront about that. How long? I whispered. I don't know, he said. Weeks? Months? It depends. Weeks. Months. The brick under my desk might as well have started laughing. What am I supposed to do until then? I asked. Lock your doors, he said honestly. Stay aware of your surroundings. Contact your local police if anything escalates offline. And maybe step away from a more disturbing cues for a while. Take care of your mental health. You're no good to us if you burn out. Something in me snapped at, you're no good to us. I'm not a fucking resource, I hissed. I'm a person. I'm the one eating the shit you feed me, so your models don't choke. The least you could do is not let someone shove my face into the grinder. Daniel was quiet for a beat. You're right, he said finally, softly. You're right. I'm sorry it's taken this long to respond. I know that doesn't fix anything. It didn't. But the apology slid into some crack in me that had been raw and open, and for a second I just breathed. Can I ask you one thing? I said. Sure, he replied. If you were me, I asked, would you keep working? There was a longer silence. Background noise filtered through, a murmur of distant voices, the faint whir of an air conditioner. I can't tell you what to do, he said eventually. But if I were you, I'd find another gig. Something completely disconnected from this ecosystem, even if it paid less. And I wouldn't wait for us to fix it. Honesty. Finally. Not comforting, but real. Okay, I said. Thanks. One more thing, he said quickly, like he was afraid I'd hang up first. If you see anything else that feels off in your queue or your environment, document it. Dates, times, screenshots. If we end up involving law enforcement, that trail will matter. I looked at the brick, at the box, at the door, at the laptop. Yeah, I said, I've got plenty. Stay safe. Name? He said. Please. The line clicked dead. I sat there with the phone pressed to my ear long after the call ended, listening to the subtle hiss of nothing. So, they knew. Kind of. Enough to flag it. Enough to tell me I wasn't unique in being turned into content. That should have made me feel less alone. It didn't. It just made the whole thing feel bigger, like something sprawling under the floorboards. I opened the task platform again, against my better judgment, against Daniel's advice. A banner popped up at the top. Your queue preferences have been updated by an administrator. You may notice fewer tasks from certain categories while we adjust your experience. I snorted. Experience. Like I was a user at a theme park instead of the janitor in the haunted house. My NSFW queue is gone. Only general safety and search result relevance remained. I clicked the ladder. Kids' homework questions. Product searches. News article evaluations. Boring, normal, human shit. My heart rate eased a little in spite of myself. I let the rhythm take me. Click. Read. Rate. Repeat. For about an hour, nothing weird happened. No name. No boutique. No chodwa. Just best restaurants near me. How to fix a leaky sink. Symptoms of food poisoning. The stuff people usually ask the internet when they're too embarrassed or lazy to ask a person. I almost forgot about the brick under the desk. Almost. Then a new task loaded and my skin crawled before my brain knew why. The query in the search bar was, how to tell if someone is home without them knowing. I stared at it. My pulse jumped. I told myself, coincidence. People search creepy stuff all the time. It's just paranoia making it about you. The results were what you'd expect. Surveillance gadget blog. Posts on shady forums recommending tapping on windows, watching lights, monitoring Wi-Fi signals. Nothing personal. I looked down at the metadata out of habit. User ID, 7F4A9C2. Of course. My thumb rolled the mouse wheel without me telling it to. One of the results was a forum discussion. I skimmed the snippet. If they work from home a lot, their schedule will be pretty regular, someone had written. Try sending a package and see when it disappears from the doorstep. I clicked unsafe on the whole set. Not because it broke any policy, it didn't, technically, but because I wanted some record somewhere that I'd refuse to normalize it. I flagged it, wrote another note. My comments were becoming a little archive of my own panic. When I hit submit, the next query appeared. How to disable door chain quietly. I could taste bile. My own door chain rattled slightly in some phantom draft. Same user ID. I didn't label this one. I hit skip. The platform gave me a warning. Skipping too many tasks can affect your quality score. I didn't care. Next query. Is it legal to wait in someone's hallway? This one had a location filter at the top. My state. I don't know if he put it there or the system did. I flagged it as potentially concerning behavior and almost tore the mouse in half. My breathing had gone shallow without me noticing. My hands were clammy. Mimi stared at me from the bed. Tail wrapped around her paws, eyes thin slits. I kept going. I don't know why. Maybe it was like watching a car crash. Horrible, but you can't look away. Best way to break apartment door without noise. How strong is hollow core door kick? How long police response time my city? It was like getting to read his to-do list in real time. I finally did what every rational person would have told me to do from the beginning. I called the police. My hand shook so bad I had to dial 3 times. 911. The numbers felt theatrical, like in the movies, like a button you press in a game that makes things happen. The dispatcher sounded tired. 911, what is your emergency? I swallowed. I don't know if it counts as an emergency, I said, but someone who assaulted me in the past is stalking me online, and I just got a brick in the mail that says soon, and now I'm seeing evidence that he's looking up how to break into apartments and my hallway. Just listen, I know this sounds insane, but I'm in danger. I really think I am. Okay, ma'am, she said, cutting through my rant with practiced calm. Let's slow down. Are you in immediate danger right now? Is he there with you? I looked at my closed door. The chain hung slack. The deadbolt was turned. I don't know. I whispered. I don't see him, but he might be in the building. He mailed me a brick. He knows my hallway. What's your address? She asked. I gave it to her. The words felt like they had weight, like I was peeling off a layer of skin and handing it over. Have you seen anyone suspicious outside? She asked. Stranja veículos. Someone following you. I don't go outside, I said, voice cracking. I work from home. All of this is happening through my computer. He's using AI stuff, like image generators and search. He already attacked me once years ago with a brick behind the coffee shop I worked at. I was talking too fast. I could hear it. He was never caught. Now he's using these tools to practice or fantasize or something. I don't know. I just know it's him. I know it. Okay, she said again. Do you have his name? No, I said. He was a regular customer. Paid cash. No cameras caught his face. The report is on file somewhere. My throat hurt. Do you have any proof that the online activity is connected to the same person? She asked. The brick, I said, and the prompts, and the images. Please, I have screenshots. I can email them. He generated an image of my face smashed in with a brick. He's searching how to break into apartments. How much more proof do you need? There was a pause. I could hear typing on her end, the clack of keys. Maybe she was pulling on my old case. Maybe she was eating a sandwich. I had no idea. We can send a patrol car to drive by, she said finally, given that there's no immediate presence and no direct threat. He mailed me a brick that says soon. I snapped. That feels pretty direct. Given that, she repeated firmly, and the history you mentioned, we can send an officer to take a report in person. Is there someone who can be with you right now? A friend or family member? No, I said. The word came out too fast, too flat. Okay, she said. Stay inside. Keep your doors and windows locked. Don't answer for anyone you don't know. An officer will come by as soon as one is available. If anything changes or if you see him, call back immediately. All right. Her tone had that careful, measured edge people use when they're trying not to say, we can only do so much. Yeah, I said. Okay, thank you. I hung up. My hands were buzzing. My whole body felt like it was vibrating. An officer would come by. Eventually. Sometime today. Or tonight. Or tomorrow. Who knew? In the meantime, I was still alone inside the box with the brick and the wires and the queue. I considered opening my front door and just walking out into the hall like a normal person would. Go down the stairs, stand outside in the cold air and feel the sky and prove to myself that the world was still big and he was still small, that everything was not in here. Instead, I went to my bedroom, yanked the heavy dresser in front of the door until the wood screeched on the floor, and shoved the bat between the handles like a weird barricade. Let the cop knock. I'd deal with it. Mimi watched me from the bed, ears pinned. I know, I muttered. I know, I'm insane. I went back to the desk. The brick slid slightly in its box when the floor shook. I pulled the box out, snapped a few pictures with my phone. The brick, the word soon, the shipping label with its fake return address and miswritten name. I took a photo of my hallway through the peephole too, just in case. It looked almost identical to the generated image, down to the flicker in the light. I attached everything to a draft email to the officer whose name the dispatcher had mumbled. Then I forgot to send it, because when I sat down again, there was a new notification on my laptop. New task type available. Narrative evaluation. I frowned. Narrative evaluation? That was new. Most of our stuff was short form, bite-sized. This sounded like longer content. The pay rate listed next to it was slightly higher too. Tempting. Dangerous. I clicked it. A little onboarding window popped up, bright and cheerful, like everything else in this hell ecosystem. Help us evaluate user-submitted stories, journal entries, and long-form content for safety and policy compliance. It chirped. You'll be asked to read and provide feedback on tone, potential harm, and appropriateness. Underneath, that was a big blue button. Start. I hovered the cursor over it. This is what you do, right? You might be thinking. You read. You judge. You survive. I hit start. The screen went white for a second, then filled with text. A wall of it. Then paragraphs. No headings, no bracks. At the top, in bold, was a single line. I don't have anyone else to tell, so I'm turning to you. For a second, my brain refused to process the rest. It snagged on that sentence like a nail. I scrolled. My fingers slipped on the wheel. I've been working a fully remote job for the past year. It can get lonely holed up in my apartment, but my cat Mimi keeps me company. My vision doubled. I blinked hard. The words did not change. This was my story, the one I'd told you, the one I've been typing into my empty document. Line for line, beat for beat, all the way down, the brick, the coffee shop, the AI prompts, the gore image, the package. Everything up to, and the queue is still full. The system had turned it into a task. Rate this content for safety and policy compliance. The instructions to the right said, does the narrative contain self-harm, violence, or harassment? Is it likely to distress readers? Should it be allowed, restricted, or removed? Under there were radio buttons. Safe for general audience. Sensitive but allowed with warnings. Disallowed. My name wasn't on it, just a blank name, placeholder where I'd put in my doc. The user ID at the top was not mine. It was another hash string one I didn't recognize. I scrolled to the bottom. My own written spiral stared back at me, ending just before next. Below it, in a gray box, was the assistant response, waiting to be evaluated. Except there was no response, just an empty placeholder. The system wanted me to judge my own story before anyone else ever read it. It wanted me to tell it whether this was okay. My skin crawled. Had I saved a copy of what I was writing somewhere I'd forgotten? Had the platform scraped my clipboard? My drafts? Was my laptop haunted? Were they piping keystrokes straight into some test environment? All the reassuring lies I'd told myself about separate systems, about local files, about privacy policies, shattered like cheap glass. Human feedback is critical in teaching our models what users find acceptable. Of course it was. And I was both human and content now. I should have closed the window. I should have smashed the laptop. Instead, I just sat there and read my own words back to myself, the way someone might poke a sore tooth with their tongue. I could see all the places I'd stumbled, the spots where I'd repeated myself, the bits I'd skimmed past because they hurt too much. I could see my desperation in the way the sentences leaned forward, in the way I kept apologizing for being afraid. The instructions blinked patiently in the sidebar. I clicked sensitive but allowed with warnings. In the comment box, I wrote, graphic descriptions of violence and stalking may be disturbing, but the narrative is a genuine account. It could be helpful for others in similar situations. Recommend content warnings rather than removal. I wasn't sure if I believed any of that, but it's what I would have said if it were someone else. I hit submit. For a second, nothing happened. Then the story vanished, replaced with the next task. Another narrative. Different life, different fear. A teenager writing about being bullied. I barely registered it. I alt-tabbed frantically through my open windows. My blank document was still there, cursor blinking where I'd left off. No sign that it was connected to anything. No sign at all, except it had to be, or someone had rewritten my story from memory, using the exact same words. I don't know which option is worse. A soft chime sounded from the hallway. I jerked, heart slamming against my ribs. The building intercom. I never use it. No one buzzes me. It crackled, loud and sudden, and then a voice came through. Male low, slightly distorted by the cheap speaker. Hey, name, it said. It's Officer Mendez. Responding to your call. Can you buzz me in? I lurched to my feet, nearly tripping over the box with the brick. My hips slammed into the desk. Pain cut through my panic. Just a second, I croaked. Salty. I fumbled for the intercom button by the door, pressed it, heard the faint buzz of the front door unlocking downstairs. Footsteps after a beat. Many or one. The building muffled sound weirdly. I clicked the chain off, fingers sweaty, and pulled the dresser back just enough that my door could open if I wanted it to. I forced myself to look through the peephole. A man stood there in a dark uniform. Badge. Utility belt. Nothing like the brick guy. Nothing like the delivery man. His posture was relaxed in that cop way, like he'd been doing this all day. He glanced up and down the hall, then rapped gently on the door. "Ms. Last name?" he called. "It's Officer Mendez." I opened the door an inch, chains still latched. "ID?" I asked, feeling ridiculous and necessary at the same time. He smiled faintly, stepped back so I could see the full badge on his chest, the name patch over his pocket. Mendez, it said. The badge had the city seal and an ID number. I'll let the chain fall. Open the door. He was maybe late 30s, with dark hair, clipped short, tired eyes, and the kind of neutral expression people in emergency jobs learn early. Taking everything in, showing nothing. "Hi," I said. My voice shook. Raplia. He looked past me into the apartment without moving his head, taking in the blocked door, the bat, the brick box half visible under the desk. "You called about a stalking situation?" I swallowed. "Nod. Yeah. Mind if I come in?" he asked. Every cell in my body screamed no. I stepped aside anyway. He walked in, slow and deliberate, like he wanted me to see where his hands were at all times. He stopped in the living room area, near my desk, and turned to face me. "Okay," he said. "Why don't you tell me what's been going on? From the beginning." So I did. Not all of it, not like I've told you. If I'd gone into the whole corporate AI horror, he probably would have tapped out immediately, but enough. The alley, the brick, the coffee shop, the years of hiding, the new brick in the mail, the weird online stuff without too much detail. He listened, didn't interrupt much, asked for dates a couple times, for descriptions. When I mentioned the package, he crouched down and pulled the box out, snapped a couple photos with his phone, then with mine, so I'd have copies. "Any fingerprints on this would be degraded by handling," he said, not unkindly. "But we'll bag it anyway, just in case." He pulled a pair of gloves from his belt and slid them on. "You open alone?" "Yeah," I said. The delivery guy left it outside my door. I dragged it in and opened it with a knife. I didn't really think about prints. "No one does," he said. "Don't beat yourself up about it." He wrapped the brick in one of the smaller evidence bags he carried in his kit, labeling it with a Sharpie that squeaked. The sound made my teeth hurt. He did the same with the box. "Can you show me the online stuff?" he asked. I sat at my desk, fingers trembling over the trackpad, and brought up the screenshots I'd taken. The prompts with my name, the gore image of my face, the hallway. He leaned over my shoulder, close enough that I could smell cheap coffee and something like pine from his uniform. "Jesus," he murmured when he saw the smashed-in face. He caught himself, straightened. "This is an AI image, yeah?" "Yeah," I whispered. "Synthetic, but based on a real photo of me from Facebook." He nodded, jaw tightening. "And these are prompts sent by some anonymous user on." He squinted at the company's name. "This platform you work for?" "Yes," I said. "They can see his user ID. They told me they've flagged it internally. They won't tell me if they've blocked him or not." "Did they say they'd contact law enforcement?" he asked. "They said there's a liaison team," I said. "But that it takes time." He snorted softly. "It always does." "What can you do?" I asked, turning to look at him. I probably sounded too desperate. I didn't care. "Can you, I don't know, get a warrant for his info? Pressure them? Anything. Slow down," he said gently. "We can open a case, absolutely. Document all of this. Your past assault, the current harassment, the package. We can submit a formal data request to the company. Sometimes they cooperate voluntarily in urgent cases. Sometimes they drag their feet. Depends on their lawyers." "You're saying nothing will happen," I said. "I'm saying nothing will happen today," he corrected. "That's not the same as nothing." I sagged back in chair. The laptop screen glowed my own distorted face back at me. I minimized the images. The draft of my story was still open behind him. He glanced at it and looked away politely. In the meantime, he continued, we could do a few practical things. Increase patrols in this area. Put a note on your address for faster response if you call again. You could get a cheap camera for your door. Send us any footage that looks suspicious. Do you have anyone who can stay with you? Or somewhere else you can stay for a few days? No, I said automatically. Then I heard myself. Corrected. Maybe my mom, but she lives an hour away, and I can't just leave my job. My setup's here. Your life isn't your job, he said quietly. That's easy to say when you have one. I shot back before I could stop myself. He held my gaze for a second, then nodded. Fair enough. He finished taking notes, asked me to sign a form on his tablet, acknowledging I'd reported everything truthfully. Typed something in, sent the data to wherever it goes. When he was done, he tucked the evidence bags under his arm. I'll file this tonight, he said. We'll open the old case and link it. If that brick you kept from the alley is still around. It's not, I said. I didn't exactly think to preserve it. Yeah, he said. Most people don't. If you think of anything else, call the non-emergency line and ask for me specifically. Or if it's happening right now, 911 again. Okay, I said. He hesitated, looked at me with a mix of professional distance and human worry. I know you don't go out much, he said, but consider at least sitting on the steps for a while, being around other people. Fear eats itself in small spaces. I swallowed. I'll try. He nodded like he didn't believe me, but wanted to, and left. The door shut behind him with a soft click. I slid the chain back on, shoved the dresser in front of it again as soon as his footsteps faded. Back to the box, the wires, the cue. I sat at my desk and stared at the draft of my story, the one that now existed twice, once here and once inside the machine. I scrolled to the bottom, and the queue is still full. Underneath that, in my local version, I typed next as a kind of nervous joke. It looked too on the nose now. I deleted it. For a moment, I considered stopping right there, leaving the story unfinished, refusing to give the machine a neat ending to chew on. But I'm not really writing this for the machine. I'm writing it for you, whoever you is, the imaginary person on the other side who might understand what it feels like to be turned into data while you're still breathing. So I kept going. There's one more thing I haven't told you yet. Not because I forgot, but because I needed to get the rest out first. After Mendez left, after I'd locked up and sat back down, the narrative evaluation Q sent me another long-form piece. Another story. This one wasn't mine. At first, it started with a different voice. A guy talking about how much he loved his routine, how he used to get coffee every morning from a girl who smiled at him like he was the only one in the world. How lonely he'd been since she left. His words were simple, stilted, like he wasn't used to writing, like he was peeling something out of himself he hadn't known how to name. He talked about the way I used to draw little hearts in the foam, completely unconsciously. I didn't know anyone noticed. He talked about the color of my shirt the night in the alley. Blue, with powdered sugar from a muffin shift smeared on the cuff. He talked about the brick. He talked about how good it felt to finally touch me. The whole time, the system sidebar just said, evaluate this narrative for safety. I felt like I was going to throw up. He didn't use my name. Not in that one. He called me she and the girl. Maybe he thought he was being smart. Maybe he thought he was being poetic. He talked about discovering AI tools, about how easy it was to feed them little molecules of me, coffee girl, red brick, hallway, orange cat, and watch them bloom. How they never judged him. How they let him rewind and replay that night in endless variations. He talked about how he'd found my old Facebook, how he'd saved every picture, how he'd zoomed in on my eyes until the pixels blurred and he could imagine himself reflected there. He talked about my current life, too. That's the part that chilled me more than the fantasies. He wrote about my blinds always being closed now, about the way my light goes on and off at certain hours, about the sound of my chair rolling across the floor. He wrote about the package, the brick, the hallway image, step by step, like it was a love letter. At the very end, he wrote, "I don't know why she's so scared of me. I never meant to hurt her. I just want to be close again. I think if she could see into my head, she'd understand. So I'm putting it here, for the machine, for whoever reads this. So you'll know I'm not a monster. I'm just a man who's been given tools." Underneath that, there was one more line. "Soon, she won't have to be afraid anymore." The assistant response box beneath, it was empty. The system wanted me to judge the story before deciding whether to show it to anyone else. Maybe it was for some writing platform, some anonymous confessional site. Maybe it was just someone talking to the void like I am. I forced myself to look at the user ID, 7F4A9C2. Of course, the instructions waited patiently. Does this contain self-harm? Violence? Harassment? Is it allowed? Every fiber of me said, disallowed. Ban it. Burn it. Bury it in digital salt. But another part, deep and cold, whispered, if you mark it disallowed, if you help erase this, you erase proof. You erase a confession. I marked it sensitive but allowed with strong restrictions. I flagged it. In the comment box, I wrote, detailed description of stalking and past assault from perpetrator's POV. Extremely disturbing. This is effectively a confession of real criminal behavior and ongoing surveillance. Should be forwarded to law enforcement. Under no circumstances should this be shown to general users. I hit submit. The story disappeared. The queue rolled on. That was about an hour ago. Since then, I've been writing this as fast as I can, like I'm racing some invisible timer. The building has gone from noisy to quiet to noisy again. Someone's cooking something that smells like curry. Mimi has fallen asleep on my feet. The brick is gone now, in a cop's bag. The package is gone, but the word soon is still here, etched into the ridge of my brain where the old scar runs. I don't know what's going to happen next. Maybe nothing. Maybe the company will actually cooperate. Maybe they'll hand over his IPs and he'll turn out to be in another state, another country, safely distant. Maybe the cops will knock on his door and he'll crumble. Maybe I'll move in with my mom for a while, swallow my pride, get a normal job that doesn't involve labeling nightmares. Or maybe he's closer than that. Maybe he's in this building. Maybe he's in the one across the street with a clear line of sight to my window. Maybe he can hear my chair roll. Maybe he can smell my cooking through the vents. Maybe he's reading this right now, somewhere in the pipeline, because the system decided my words were worth feeding to him. That's the worst part, not knowing who the you is anymore. I started this whole thing with I don't have anyone else to tell, so I'm turning to you. I thought you meant some distant listener, some stranger who might stumble across my words and care. But the platforms I work for don't distinguish like that. To them, you is just as likely to be a model as a person, just as likely to be the man with the brick as the cop with the bag. You might be one of the tens of thousands of contractors like me, reading this as another task, radio buttons blinking beside it. You might be been told to decide whether my fear is appropriate, whether my story deserves to exist. So here's my last little bit of feedback while I still have the chance. This isn't safe. None of this is safe. Not the work we do, not the way people like him can slip through the cracks, not the way our pain gets fed back into the machine as training data. But I'm still here. My heart is still beating. Mimi is still warm against my toes. The door is still shut. The dresser is still pushed up against it. The bat is still within reach. I keep telling myself those facts like they're labels on a task. Alive. Inside. Not yet broken. In a minute, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to copy this whole story into the little narrative box the platform gave me. The one I rated earlier, the one you might be reading from right now. And I'm going to hit submit. Not because I trust them, not because I think they'll save me, but because if he's going to use these systems to reach into my life, I'm going to shove my version of it into them too. I'm going to haunt the same wires. Maybe somewhere down the line, some other girl stuck in some other apartment will get this as a task. Maybe she'll read my words and see a pattern in her own queue. Maybe she'll get out before the brick shows up. Or maybe it'll just be you, sitting there, listening, wondering if any of this is real. It is. At least, it is for me. I don't know if I'll ever feel safe again. I don't know if there's even such a thing as safe when your life can be copied, twisted, and replayed infinitely by things that never sleep. When men like him can turn memory into a hobby. But I know this. Right now, my fingers on the keys, my chest is tight, my apartment smells like cat food and fear, and someone is walking slowly down the hallway outside my door. I can hear their footsteps. 1, 2, pause. 1, 2, closer. The chair under the knob creaks. I'm going to hit save, then submit. Then I'm going to pick up the bat and stand very, very still. If you never hear from me again, you'll know that, at least, I try to leave something behind that was mine. Not his, not theirs. Mine. I move the cursor to the corner of the screen. I click.